Hi everyone, Pablo here from Unique Japan. How are you? Coming to you live from my home in the UK. And I have a very nice wakizashi that I'd like to introduce to you. This sword is on consignment from a client friend of mine, and he's asked me to introduce it to you. And I think it is certainly worthy of collecting a nice little piece. So let's get into it straight away. The sword is an o-Wakizashi. It was once a katana. It's at a length of about 59 centimeters from the nagasa. And let me just try and get a little further back here so you can see. Those that are familiar with this type of shape will recognize straight away that this is a katate uchi, or a one-handed fighting sword from the Muromachi period, sort of late 1500s, maybe 1550, 1570, something like that in terms of age. All right. The sword is by Kanefusa, a Seki smith, and I'll get to the signature in a short while. It's got a lovely curvature of 2 centimeters, so it really is meant for one-handed fighting style. So this is more infantry style battles, and where no longer did you have swords on horseback. You had many fights on ground battles, and so they needed swords that were not too long to handle. And this is just an atypical example of such a sword from the period. All right, it's in an older polish. It's been, well looked after. It looks good. I mean, it looks fine. So let's take a look at the nakago and a closer look at the blade, and then I'll show you the koshidai fittings that come with the sword as well. So, all right. So let's open her up. Okay. So remove the habaki. Habaki is gold plated on a copper base. With the rain pattern on. Yeah. Also Edo period. This is definitely an Edo period. Habaki. All right. So let's get to that signature. Now you'll see that there are 3 holes, right? So the sword would have been, well, this would have been the original hole down here, right? So as the sword shortened, the holes get higher, and so the original length was probably, well, the difference between this hole and that hole, right? So, which makes sense, right? Since the sword is 59 centimeters, this sword was originally around 62, 63 centimeters, which is atypical of those katate uchi swords. One-handed fighting swords. Okay. Now the signature is difficult to read because it's been worn down, which is normal. You can see the nice patina on the nakago. Actually, I like this nakago, despite the fact that it was shortened down. Anyway, no shoe ju. You can see that sort of square. That's a typical. That's seki, right? There's seki. Noshu seki ju. So living in Noshu, in Seki City, which is in Mino Province, and then it's difficult to read, Kanefusa, and then Saku at the very bottom. So made by Kanefusa. Very, he's several generations used Kanefusa. A lot of those Mino swords, of course, have Kanemoto, Kanefusa, Kanetoki. Nandemo kane desu ne. Many swords with kane. So, yeah, anyway, it's nicely signed. So I'm glad that they preserved the signature. Just barely preserved it, but originally it would have been higher. So it was shortened down. Why was it shortened? Probably just because one of the samurais that were using it wanted to. It was more comfortable for him to have it, a little bit shorter for his fighting style and his stature. I don't think anything different from that. Okay, so let's get to the Hema. And those that know, these Seki swords, they always have togari, right? So togari is basically pointed. So this is a Togade Guname. It's always the tricky part here is to try and get the hem on. It's hem on time. So you'll see there's a light scratch in the body there. It's just a purely superficial scratch, but that's what when we say older polish means that it is older. It probably hasn't been polished since sort of the mid 1900s. Okay, so there we go. It's a really cool hem-on, you know. See how it kind of points there, doing. Right, so it's very consistent. It's very typical Mino. An honest blade that is about 450 years old, right? So the boshi, right, that temper line in the tip is maru. A little bit of movement, but not much. Maru meaning rounded. All right, so there is one side of the hemon. Okay, let's see if we can take a look at capture the other side as well. The width at the hamachi here, and my notes say, is 29 millimeters, which is fairly healthy. So you see that there's still, a cutting edge. There's still a nice, hasn't been polished down too much. But certainly this is a war sword. This is a sword that has seen battles. There's no question about that. See if I can focus in on that. Itame, hadas. You'll see some masame in the shinogi, which is also very famous from the Mino school. Mino province is, of course, the name that they used in the Edo period. Now it's known as Gifu. And in Seki, there's lots of great kitchen knives being made, even today. Although I have a preference for kitchen knives made in Echizen. Everybody knows that. They've been to our Unique Japan website, but Seki has a long history of making swords and kitchen knives. Anything sharp, really. Farming tools as well. So there's the hemon. It's just consistent. It's honest. It's it's a good little blade, and I think it will be right for someone out there. Okay, good. All right, there's the back of the blade. So, yeah, that's typical. People sometimes ask me about any, sometimes you see a little bit of scarring, if you want to call it, the back of the blade and the mune. It's quite typical to see that. A little bit of rusting. If you start seeing like perpendicular lines or marks on the back of the mune, that's not so good. But if it's running parallel, then it's okay. It's fine. The sword is strong. It's not weak. Okay, cool. Great. One more shot of the full length. I don't know if you can. Sorry if this is a. Okay. There you go. Okay, cool. So, let's put back the blade inside the shirasaya. Okay. Before I get into the koshidai, I'll show you the the certificate that it has. It has a this is called the Tokubetsu Kicho certificate, right? From the this is actually from the 40s, right? So just you can see the signature there. So no shu sekiju, Kanefusa here, and the length, which is Ishaku Q Sun Gobu. So just around, almost like Nishaku is when they started katana. So technically it's a wakizashi, but it used to be a katana because the cutoff point, of course, is around 60 centimeters. So it's just 1 centimeter shy of a katana. One could really argue that this is basically a short katana. And then the year. So it's a Yonju Nine, which is at 1967 in, it looks to be November. Okay, so, and then, yeah, lovely Oshigata of the Nakago. Good. Now, before I get into the Koshidai, I can also say that the Koshidai is also certified. So it looks like the previous owner, back when, had this certified. You can see the Hosokawa. He's a family member of a former prime minister of Japan. Actually, the Hosokawa family, quite famous. And you had daimyo families called the Hosokawa. So, and then this is information that we'll translate for the Koshidai. But the Koshidai also has Tokubetsu Kicho, or meaning especially precious. So, an especially precious sword and an especially precious Koshidai as well. Right? Nice to see. And I like how the number here, this is 795, one of the early, less than 1,000, one of the early certificates from the NBTHK. All right, cool. Coolness. Sword fits inside the Koshidai, not terribly snug, but snug enough, especially when you have these Edo period Koshidai. There's going to be a little bit of movement inside, so best is to keep the sword inside the Shirasaya and the Koshidai separate. All right, so here's the Koshidai, maybe a full view of that. You know, black lacquered scabbard with buffalo horn, of course, on either side. Even the sageo hasn't changed, actually. If you remember from the picture, the sageo, there's a little bit of dust inside here. It hasn't changed since at least 1960 or 1970 or so. And let me get into the fittings. So, if you love horses, you're going to love this Koshidai. So this is all about horses. Beautiful horse depiction on the Fuchi. That lovely, isn't it? Okay. And that wraps around. I love the elegance. Japanese design is all about negative space, right? It's not always about filling everything. It's just, I like these kind of restrained fittings. And also the fittings continue here on the Minuki. This is some horses here on the Minuki on either side. Okay. Let's try and get a little close up on that. And the old Samekawa. This is, of course, the skin of a ray fish. That's also from Edo period. So this is just really, when I say Edo period, it means pre-1867, right? Or 68. Or, so those are the horses. And then we have on the Kashida, okay, another horse. Okay, try and get a little further back. Great. Yeah, it's just nicely made, very pretty. Everything matches. It feels like a unit. You know, sometimes Koshidai doesn't feel like a set. This one absolutely feels like a set. And the tsuba here is of, it looks to be like a maybe what they call a Chinese scholar or poet on the tsuba here in sort of a bamboo forest. Be like bamboo, flexible, strong, giving. So you'll see oftentimes bamboo being depicted in Japanese fittings, right? So simple iron tsuba, effective though, something that you would see on a ujikatana Koshidai. So there you go. I think this is a good little sword for someone to collect. One last thing here. Just wanted to show you where Mino province is. This is the old map of Japan here. Of course, we have, you know, Musashi. Here's this old, you know, Tokyo area, Musashi, Sagami. This is where Masamune area came from. But Mino is right here. So Mino province, kind of like in the center of Japan. And huge sword making area. Okay, that's it. So look forward to serving you. If you have any questions on this particular piece, please let me know. As always, I thank you for your incredible enthusiasm and trust in Needy Japan. All right, bye for now.